Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today, I have Michael Day returning, I think for the third time on the show. Is that
Third
right?
time.
All
And
right.
you know what
Hitting that
three
milestone.
means? That's magic.
I like it. I like that. Let's keep that magic theme rolling throughout the show. Thank you for coming back on. Wanted to start just by thanking you for being such a supporter, a fan, helpful with introducing me to other folks along my journey, and supporting me along the way. So thanks for all of that and for coming back on.
It's an honor every time I speak to you, man. You know, just like I said in the last podcast, there's been a whole bunch of new episodes. I know that you had a little bit of a break because you're a new father. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And hello from Hollywood, California. I think the last time I talked to you, I was in Colorado.
Yeah, I believe so. Actually, that's a good place to start. So I did take a break because my wife Brittany and we had a son. His name is Jetson Levi Jorphy, and he was born on July 15th at 7:11 p.m. Eastern. So yeah,
That is going to be a magic baby. I mean, all babies are magic, but that baby might have a little extra magic.
Yes, he actually has double extra magic because he weighed 7 pounds 11 ounces and was born at 7:11 p.m. So we're very excited about that numerology. I know you wanted to talk about relationships as well, and I know myself, especially with having our first child, my perspective on relationships, love, the family unit have been changing day by day as I gain experience and really kind of feel new feelings that connecting with an offspring, I suppose, give you. So where do we want to take this, Michael? Let's maybe I can kind of follow your lead on the thoughts that you were thinking around relationships and things.
You know, before the podcast, I thought in the last two podcasts, I carry no guilt or shame about this, but I talked for a significant amount of time at the start. And seeing as how I'm not a father and I haven't been in a relationship for 3 years, I think it makes sense to start with where your heart takes this conversation, since you have both of those things actively happening in your life right now.
That's okay. That's a good point. Yeah. So maybe I can talk about just the way my own views on my role have changed, and I think one of the bigger emotions or even more mind logical based things that have changed with me as I've had a child is this concept of purpose. And I think when I was single, and even when I was, just married and it was my wife and I tended to struggle with this idea of purpose for myself. When I was younger and when I was not in a relationship, I tended to put a lot of pressure on myself to find purpose in more of like a work setting, like more productivity and creating things for either my own advancement, success in a material type of realm. And now that's shifted a lot. And as I've grown closer with my son and realized, obviously a baby is completely dependent in every sense of the word on us, on Brittany and myself as his parents. And it's really given me the sense of purpose to provide for him, to try to build a good life for him, to protect and really build like a sanctuary space in our home. And it's allowed me to maybe step away from like a self-importance type of mindset. I think I tended to obsess over myself and my own view of myself a lot. And now it's like, okay, this child of mine definitely takes priority over whatever it was that I was trying to do for myself in that given day, because like he needs me and I want to have this next generation be set up for success. So yeah, it's really taken away maybe this more self-centeredness just by sheer need. It's just the necessity of not being able to be selfish anymore was kind of like a forced
Is it a need
maturity.
or is it the universe saying it's time to shift the way that you look at things? And here is this little blessing in this baby that pulls you and your partner even closer than you already were before.
Yeah,
beautiful.
That's another good way of looking at it. I think that that bond between the husband and wife and just kind of realizing, firstly on a biological level of like coming together to create life is the biological process of creating another human being inside her body. I think that was something that kind of blew open our minds too, just as it was happening. It's like, when you
Mm.
see
I
other
get I
people
get,
with
like
kids,
I get goosebumps just hearing about the process, and again, I'm not even in a relationship, just, like, life, life.
right? You see other people with kids and you're like, oh, wow, like that's cool, that's special, but you don't really internalize it until it happens to you, I suppose. And yeah, it was just life changing in a lot of different ways that I didn't necessarily expect. Like, people told me, like, oh, yeah, your life's going to change. You're going to think about things differently. And I just kind of brushed it aside to a certain extent, but it really does. Like, it really does change your perspective on what it means to be alive in this, on this planet.
So, that was such a beautiful way of explaining what it's like for the process of the individual for the self, but I'm really curious. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be asking you questions. How has it changed the relationship dynamic between you and Brittany?
Yeah,
I know it's a very broad, open-ended question. Just take it, wherever you want.
take it how I will. No, I think it's helped to define the priorities of each of us, and I think in a lot of different ways. The more like gender traditional roles that maybe didn't seem important or like were more fluid before. Like she is a very independent woman. She's a personal trainer. She had her own business. She works as a Pilates instructor as well. And strong woman type personality, like very capable of being independent and self sufficient. But now, with her as more of the nurturing caretaker role with our son, she's been happy to step more into like this maternal and divine feminine type of energy, which has
Mm.
been really cool to see her enjoy that, embrace it, seek it out. And then at the same time, like the yin and the yang, like I've now concentrated my own efforts on building more of that masculinity in
Mm.
myself, trying to figure out, what are different practices, different just behavior patterns that I can adopt that will help me grow stronger, like kind of, equal and opposite directions. Like the more masculine I can embody, the more feminine she can embody. And that's been the dynamic.
As I'm speaking to you, I feel that balance. I feel this harmony in your voice since the
Hmm.
last podcast, which is so counterintuitive because as you in personal discussions, you talked about how many new responsibilities you have. So
Hmm.
it would seem like you would go in the opposite direction. But both you and Brittany know that there's more to I'll just leave it at that because now you're gonna impart this knowledge. As you said, we want to build a stronger generation. That's what you're gonna be doing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now you are coming into it in balance where you're both identifying and embracing both the divine and masculine and feminine within you guys.
Right. Thank you. No, I do appreciate it. And yeah, all the love and support that we've received from family and friends as it's happened has been really touching in a lot of different ways. Just how much people will open their hearts up, especially when they see the when they see the baby.
Yeah.
Just kind of like cracks open the light into everybody's heart once they see a little baby smile. So it's been cool.
Children are a gift, and like you said at the start, they are very dependent on adults as infants, but then you also get the opportunity to learn and grow from them as they start getting into their own self and understanding who they are. And now
Right.
this generation is going to teach us. That's
Right.
has to work like that because everything else has been failing.
Right. Yes. I do want to like, kind of talk about that as far as like a generational perspective. And I know that he's going to become his own person soon enough. Like he's only 2 months, just over 2 months now. So, you know, very early on, like he's starting to develop a little bit of a personality that we can see around the edges.
So this is another beautiful aspect of early childhood from an outsider's perspective, is if you adopt this philosophy of PC Manta, which is one step at a time. Infants allow you to take a step back, hopefully, if you have the time to do it as a parent, and watch them as they evolve each day. Even if you have a 9 to 5, and you get to see them a little bit, you get to see that little bit of growth until it gets to that point that we were talking about where they're like, I'm an independent, sentient human being, and I can do stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I do have a 9 to 5. And I think that's been another interesting thing to observe as I've had the baby. And my company gives pretty generous parental leave, and that's really nice. And I think that's another thing
That's
generationally. Like I know talking to my father, he didn't really get leave. He get some days off, like paid time off, vacation days or whatnot. But it's cool to see. It's one of the few things that has changed dramatically. I think about just the way corporations like view I don't know, the family life is like they've given. It's not nearly as good as it is in Europe, but it's also way better
yeah.
than it was before. Like get 10 weeks at my company, and I can take it anytime within the first year. So I was like, oh wow, like that's I appreciate that. That's great.
How old are you again, JT?
Well, actually, on Monday, I will be turning 38.
Wow. That's
So
awesome.
just a
I'm
few days away.
45, so 7 years is not too much of a difference for us to both acknowledge that the generational slow drip towards actually moving towards love in business.
Hmm.
I've seen it, and I think that you've seen it too. I mean, you just gave a clear example of it, and your story is not an isolated story. I mean, they're all over the place.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that. Kind
We're
of.
getting younger leadership everywhere in think tanks and non-for-profits, like all over the planet. And eventually things will change because they are bringing new perspectives. And now we have another vanguard in your son's generation.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
just
I think.
getting stronger and stronger and bolder and bolder. That's
Hmm.
my belief.
Oh, for sure. No, I definitely notice, and I think a lot of the times, like even if there is someone that's part of an older generation that's at these leadership positions, they have seen the tide shift amongst the population of the company to more of like, empathetic.
I gotta jump in real quick. I'm so glad that you said that because I did not, there was no intention to come off dismissive of any other generation that has put us in the position that we are where we are requiring new generations to come in and fix certain systemic problems. All is of utility. So you know me, like third podcast, at least once during the podcast, all is of utility. You know, people rail against the baby boomers. Like they served just as an important role as the generations that are going to turn the tide, so to speak.
Yeah. And it's an evolutionary process, I believe, right? It's like if you go far enough back, there's like warring tribes and like life was pretty
Mm,
brutal, like
yeah.
scarce resources. And so each generation, I feel, has done their duty to heal a lot of the wounds from the generation that came before
Mm,
them. And you can't do it all. You can't go from like super darkness to super bright light all in
yeah.
one generation span. So it's like a
TCPC Manta.
slow unfolding.
TCPC Manta.
Yeah, I like that phrase. You said it was one step at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And going back to my own choice and decision making and my wife and I's conversation around having a child as well, it's like I feel like in the culture and in the media especially, a lot of messaging has been very negative as far as bringing more children into the world. I know for a while there, I was thinking, oh, the world's too messed up as it is. There's too much pollution. There's too many people. Having a child is like reckless. It's gonna destroy the world even more. And it was like a very negative mindset that I was in for a really long time. And so I was thinking, at one point, probably during my 20s, like I'll never have kids. Like I don't want to add more weight to the shoulders of Mother Nature.
I've always
And
said we share a similar journey. I just want to throw out that that is where I was at one point.
hmm, yeah, yeah, I've seen a lot of folks be there, stay there. Some have changed over time. And I think a lot of the transformation of that mindset for me was just trying to embrace or embracing more optimism as far as our ability to improve the world around us, our ability to teach and change and adjust our behavior patterns. Like as I had developed my own wellness practice and really taking care of myself and taking care of my body through like exercise and diet and things like that, I began to believe and internalize that we can become better people day by
Yes.
day and we can make the world around us better. So it was more of like a switch to optimism of we can bring a baby into this world. It seems like that's the goal of life as the human species anyway, is to kind of procreate and perpetuate itself because I'm glad I'm alive. I'm happy to have had the opportunity to be brought into this world by my own mother. And so why not give that chance to another soul to experience life here on earth?
Yeah, let's all adopt that perspective.
Like maybe we can talk a little bit more about elements of like sacred masculine and feminine, sacred sexuality, like any things that you wanted to explore in that realm.
I think, not I think, I feel what is coming up is related to just my experience. It's anecdotal, but the people closest to me have all been dealing with relationship issues. I've come to an understanding, and this is fair game. We can debate this, we can talk about this, but I've come to an understanding that you have the divine masculine, which is a rock, which is a perch, which is safety, which is strength, which is the mountains. You have the divine feminine, which is the water, which is the flow of life, which is the nurturing love. They are equal counterparts. And you realize this and you know this and you feel this in you because we just talked about it. You've just had real life examples in this reality of what that looks and that feels like. Until we are in balance, this is my understanding. Again, I don't want to project what I believe onto anybody else. But until we are in balance with that, we are not complete. We are not whole. And we are seeking that wholeness and that completeness from somebody else. But the reason I have not been in a relationship for 3 years, and I've been in California, and there's been ample opportunities. I've met a lot of people out here. I haven't been on one date since I left my wife, separated from my wife. And it's because I didn't feel like I was in balance. I
Mm,
learned some hard lessons from some people really close to me. I feel like I've moved towards that, but I understand why a person has not come into my life because I had not achieved that balance yet. And everybody's journey is different, and different people will reach that balance at different times. My journey has been a little longer, and that's cool. I accept that. My experience with a lot of people is they enter into relationships seeking something from someone else, and they have
mm,
to seek it within themselves first, be it peace, be it stillness, and then you can have the intimacy, and then you can come together, and then you are truly one. That's my position on sacred sex, on intimacy, on relationships, on dating, on anything related to the interaction between a man and a woman. And that
right.
was a longer response, but I think it was important to say that. It's very absent in vast swaths of society all across the world.
Yeah.
Yet somehow the generation, these young people are coming out of this. So it's necessary too. What do you think?
I think it's like again this evolutionary process of kind of the things that we see from our parents' generation, just like as we've observed growing up, like different things that we may want to change about it, and perhaps like the culture of that previous generation was maybe a little bit more rigid and conservative, perhaps just like as far as roles and expectations. And then you had kind of this more like feminism movement where you had like a break away from that, like you don't want to have like a woman as a housewife, and that's like viewed as a negative thing. And so you have this kind of push to have gender equality on a lot
Mm,
of different playing fields, which I think in certain regards is a good thing. Like if someone's like for instance at work with pay, if someone's doing the same work, it shouldn't matter if they're a man or woman, they should get paid the same amount of money for the same amount of work. But at the same time, I think if that can go too far, as far as when you're telling men or women that like this traditional role, maybe nurturer for the mother and like provider for the man, if you're saying like those are no longer relevant as guideposts as far as like what you should be pursuing, and like it's completely fluid as to like who could do either one of them, like I think that's probably true in a lot of cases, like you could, but maybe it's not as comfortable or successful. And I think that my mindset has kind of changed around that with having a child as well, as like the more that I lean into these more traditional roles that I sort of rebelled against before, like the more that I actually embrace them and stop trying to push them away, like the more success that I seem to find around it, and like the more confidence in myself that I have is like, okay, I do want to step into this more traditional masculine stereotype of
Huh.
trying to become stronger, trying to become more of a provider or protector, and look after the family in that way. And yeah, I guess it's like with the generations coming next, like perhaps they'll take their own perspective and change that how they will. But yeah, I'm not I'm not necessarily sure that it could change like too far away from that dynamic without having maybe just more difficulties like in a relationship day to day. Like I just think it makes it easier to kind of like split up the roles and responsibilities in that kind of structure.
Well, just to make a distinction between gender roles in relation to the divine masculine and feminine, talking about stability and nurturing love versus gender roles in domestic tasks. I'm going to pose a question. Gender roles serve the purpose because we're talking about it, right? I mean,
Mm.
just the simple fact that we are talking about it means it served a purpose for someone somewhere. I mean, gender roles have to be illusions, right? Because if you are living a conscious, self-aware life and living through your heart, you don't make a distinction between whether a man or a woman picks up a plate. You just do what you do because you're living in the present moment. So when you're walking through the house, you're just like, I got to do that now because I'm
Hmm.
present. I'm not thinking like, oh, this person should do this because I did it last week and she did it 3 times. So I got to do it two now. Like that's all crazy. But
Yeah,
that
that's a good
has to
point.
be part of the illusions that is holding us back from our highest potential.
Hmm. Yeah, it's less on like
Anybody is
a
anybody is capable of doing anything at any time as long as they listen to themselves. That's my
mm.
position.
Yeah, maybe it's less on like a split amongst like chores or tasks or activities and more of just like a vibe, like more of like an
Oh,
energy
okay. Yeah,
that's
that kind
that's
of
like brought
tension. Yeah.
to, or just yeah, just like to kind of embody the masculine energy more and like what that means. And I guess to each person that may mean a different thing, but
Yeah.
just like the intention of trying to explore what that is. Like for me, that's manifested in like I'm trying to work out more, trying to become physically stronger. So I've adopted this behavior now to be more disciplined in going to the gym. And like I was like, okay, what was my motivation? Like we're having a child. I'm probably going to need to lift him up and carry him around places. Like I need to get stronger so that I can be more effective in that. Like,
But you know what's even better than that? When you just go to the gym without trying to figure out why, and you build strength, and then later on you figure out why you had built that strength.
yeah. Although it was helpful for me to have that motivating factor. I feel like maybe in the
Sure,
past,
with the gym. Yeah, I get
yeah,
that. I get that.
yeah,
Yeah,
in
I've
the
been there
past, I
for sure.
wouldn't necessarily be as
If I
motivated
walked
to
back
push
into a
myself.
gym tomorrow morning, I would need motivation too. You feel like your external strength building as your internal strength builds as you have that achieve that balance. That again, like for me, it's the middle road, the
Mm.
center, not too far on either extreme, and that's when the magic happens. And you're living it right now. You're a dad, you're going back to the gym, getting diesel.
Yeah, yeah. I think the internal and the external they always move in tandem. Like it's kind of like one and the same, right? Like the state that you're the heart, mind, body, soul connection, all of that, like how it expresses itself internally through your thoughts and your feelings and your decisions and things like that. And then through the external world of what your day to day life looks like, what your physical situation looks like. They say, I don't know who told me this phrase, but that every baby is born with a loaf of bread under its arm. So like basically like a loaf of bread is like food. So like they're bringing prosperity into your life. And also this thing, it's like a really funny image of a baby with like a French baguette underneath its arm. Like, I just think that's a funny image. But like
Oh,
the metaphor of the metaphor is like, okay, if you have a child, like you'll be getting blessings, like you'll be provided for by the universe. And in my case, I got a job offer while I was on paternity leave
wow.
that came with like a pay increase, and I was like, oh, it worked. Jetson
This is the
does have
most
some bread.
epic. This is the most epic podcast ever. You're just like dropping these little awesome things that have been happening consistently that I had no idea about, other than you becoming the new fathers.
Right?
My heart is so full right now.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, it's been pretty transformative past few years. Actually, I mean, basically since I met you at the retreat out in Colorado. Like Brittany and I were together, and I think we had just gotten married like 3 months before.
Oh wow, I didn't know
Um,
you had just got married. That's awesome.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
you had that transformative experience together.
Hmm.
You guys are destined for incredible things, your entire family. I just feel it in my bones.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it
We
was an
all
amazing
are. We
retreat.
all can be. We
Yes.
all can be.
Oh, 100%.
I I would like to talk about sacred sex.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. I was gonna say the first thing that popped into my mind, and well, I haven't done the recording yet, but I'm gonna try to get Nobu on the podcast next week, and I think I'm gonna talk to him about this because,
Tell my say
yeah,
hello.
yeah, yeah, because I talked to him about. I worked with Nobu. He was at the so Nobu was at the retreat. He is a shaman, a life coach, an artist, a lot of different things,
He's an
and
incredible human being.
he is an
And
incredible human being.
can I just jump in real quick?
Yeah, of
My
course.
memory about Nobu, and I hope Nobu watches this, is when we sat in an introductory circle, he introduced himself through poetry,
Hmm.
through on the spot. He improvised.
Right.
And to master the spoken word like that, I was in awe of him, and I still am.
Yeah, no, I remember that moment vividly because he mixed in some stuff about Brittany's father that she
Yeah,
had
there
just
were
shared like a
synchronicities
moment
in there.
before. It was pretty wild. A lot of magical things were happening. So I was actually I've been working with Nobu over the past 8 months or so,
Oh, cool.
and it's been really great just to have a different perspective than the one that I had, and he's very much uh, passionate about the things that he like I guess experiences and suggests and his
Right.
opinions on these things, and kind of bringing it back to sacred sexuality. He is a big proponent of semen retention. So what
Yes.
is that is like your seed that like I said, sperm and an egg, and that
Yes.
seed that creates life has very powerful, potent god energy, life energy in that. And so everything just kind of
It's in such
ripples
a
out
line.
from that concept, right?
There's such alignment here because this is exactly what came to me right after I asked you.
Oh yeah, there you go. We're on the same
Yes.
wavelength right there.
Yes. The three strongest energetic releases are childbirth, are when a woman is on her moon, and a sexual release.
Hmm.
I just recently learned that when you have a feeling of arousal, and I have not had sex for 3 years since I was with my wife, and it just never felt right. It
Mm,
never felt right. And I think what I learned recently is that when you get aroused, I mean, I'm in Southern California in Hollywood. There are attracted people everywhere. And when that arousal comes up, it's important to not react. Don't do anything with it. Just sit with it and let that energy, from what I've read and started to understand recently, go to your heart, because
hmm.
that arousal towards that other human being has something to teach you. And
Hmm.
the union between two people is absolutely beautiful when they're in harmony and they're complete, right? And you have that beautiful energetics experience together. But there is also extreme power and utility in the clarity that comes from not responding to a sexual feeling inside, because it might just be someone trying to teach you something about yourself. And if you release that energy out, however that looks, then maybe you miss something. And I think that that's where a lot of people are at with just regular sex. I think a
Right.
lot of people have incredible experiences, but I don't think they're having sacred sex. So I don't think they're having the best experience that they can have. And that is not the intimate experience where you are physically connected. That is when your essence and your soul and your heart is connected to the other person's.
Hmm.
That's when it's pure, just light. And that's why I haven't had sex, because that experience to me is very sacred. And I'm reserving that for the person that I'm supposed to have that with. That's what I believe.
Right.
Um, I'm not advocating abstinence for everybody, but I don't know, just maybe. Maybe people, when it comes to sex, need to listen to their heart a little more.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm not passing judgment on people. You know, you can have whatever experience you want. It's none of my business. That's your
Right.
journey and your journey, their journeys. I don't care. But for me personally, it's too important spiritually to not be with somebody on that level before I have an experience like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I'll wrap it up by saying the extra value in these 3 years is that there hasn't been a lot of release. I'll just be candid. So I've learned a lot from people that I've just looked at on the street and, you know, I've found them attractive or they came up from the past. I'm like, oh, I was so attracted to that person. I wasn't attracted to their physical beauty. I was attracted to the lesson that they were going to teach me.
I mean, would you mind sharing like some of these lessons that have come up? Like kind of what does that look like? Is it just kind of self-reflection as far as like the feeling that you're assessing that you feel when you saw that person, or is it like something will actually happen and like there'll be an event and like you'll react one way or the other and like it's more of like a
It's
tangible.
it's it's an array of everything that you just said. It manifests in synchronicities with conversations with people. The lessons are directly related to what we initially started talking about in this conversation. On the divine feminine side is how to respect the flow of life, how to learn how to be nurturing and loving, even in the face of someone or something or some nation or some entity just treating you like total garbage. Lessons on the divine masculine side. How do I be sensitive? And how do I project love, but I also be that mountain and I be that jaguar? How do I be that jaguar where I have a gentle heart, the nurturing love, and the ferociousness when I have to attack?
Mm,
Attack not meaning the physical attack, but a boundary to protect my heart and my soul and my spirit and those around me that I care about.
mm. I'll start with kind of my perception over my lifetime really about like the concept of sexuality. I grew up going to a Catholic school, and a lot of the teaching around that was, you know, no sex before marriage, but it was never really kind of explained why. So I think I interpreted it more as like just some rule that like some old people were trying to enforce without really having any logic or meaning behind it. It just seemed like one of many rules and one of many potentially fun things that the adults are taking away from the younger generation. So I think it in my mind it was more of like an almost like an act of rebellion.
I just watched a podcast related to this, and I think that I could provide just like a theory, and that is that Mary Magdalene was the 13th apostle, and she was a threat to the church, to Christianity, because this idea that like everything that we've been talking about is inside you was coming from her. So I don't even have the words to talk about how important she was to being cast out, you know, as this horrible human being, this sinner that needed to be saved. And I think that there's something there. I think that's an extension of the heavy-handedness of the church in casting. You know, this is just again the theory that casting her out when she was such an important and powerful spiritual woman. So
Right.
I think that what you're talking about is just a continuation of that rigidness, that overcompensation in the divine masculine, which is the hierarchy of organized religion and the Catholic Church. And we can talk about that for a long time. But
I was gonna say, yeah, I'll give you a whole other episode on all the the
I
different
just
things that
think
came
this
out of
is
that.
this is definitely not something new. This is something that, you know, women have been demonized since that this
Mm-hmm.
important woman who was at the core when people were starting to come to the church. She was there for Jesus, and um, I'm not a religious person, but I think she is she is the divine representation of the rose. She is the divine representation of nurturing love, and I think the reason that we are where you were talking about is because that was removed from us, and the entire collective consciousness is not in balance. Just there.
Yeah, no, I think that her story, I don't know it, but I feel that it would be beneficial to have that. Like, from what I've kind of heard through other folks that are interested in kind of her and her story, and just like you said, it seemed like she's been scrubbed and demonized from the teachings and from the scriptures. And I think that is
It
it's a
was a
shame.
the, it was a theological and political assassination if the theory is correct, and I'm calling it a theory for people that will find this very disturbing who do belong to organized religion and especially the Catholic Church. So
Right.
I'm treading lightly, but I know this is a truth in my heart.
Hmm.
Her absence or perceived absence, she's always been with us. I think I think returning to the nurturing love that she can provide and the knowledge and wisdom that was scrubbed can get us back into balance. And maybe we're talking about this right now because this is like one of the keys to restoring balance.
Right.
The United States, across the planet, across the universe. I don't know.
Hmm.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be wild if that's it? Just we all just like go buy some roses, sit and say thank you. Please teach us the knowledge and wisdom that a bunch of old men tried to bury. Please,
Right.
Mother Mary. What if it was just that? You never know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Sorry,
think.
I went off on a really interesting journey there, but it did come from here, so there's something in it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was I forgot who I was talking to about it, but like, I was raised Catholic. I went to church. I went to Catholic school, but I left the church because it just didn't feel right. Like when I was in kindergarten, it was about Jesus and one love, and everyone should treat each other with kindness, and I was 100% on board with that. But then as you get older, then more of like the church dogma starts to dominate, and there's all these rules and all these like punishments for sins, and like they kind of just lost the thread of Jesus's teaching in my mind. It's like that's not the Jesus I knew. Like the Jesus I knew was one love and everyone is a
You will
child
be
of God.
judged. You will
Yeah.
be judged. But aren't we
Yeah.
not supposed to judge? Like our
Right.
neighbor and stuff like that?
Right. It just all got so twisted. So I was like, this doesn't make sense to me, so I'm no longer going to participate in this. And
But that's the resistance to love, and can I circle back just real quick to what you were talking about before about people being negative about bringing babies into the world, right? If the generations are increasing in their proactiveness in incorporating love into every aspect of society, then isn't the resistance to that going to be fierce?
hmm,
I would imagine it would be because these are old paradigms that have existed for a very long time, and the power and control. And you've worked for. We've talked about your previous occupation, so there's a beautiful side to it, and there's a very dark underbelly.
right. Right. Yeah, it's equal and opposite reaction. And I've been maybe I follow all these accounts on Instagram, so I see them more more than other people. But all these different things that are happening in our world right now, things kind of feeling like they're flipped upside down. Folks are saying different timelines are converging. A lot of secrets are being exposed, truths are being brought to the surface, and it really does feel like that. And a lot of different places, situations, people, events in the world. 10 years ago, I would have taken a completely opposite viewpoint on it, whereas now I'm on the other side, or trying to weigh both of them, and it just doesn't seem like there's as much certainty about
Mm.
anything anymore. Because I think that as humans evolve and as we wake up and become more, like you're saying, centered in love, a lot of these societal structures that were built to create order and control just
Isn't that
look
the
silly.
divine? Isn't that the divine feminine coming back into balance? That flow, that fluidity, that getting rid of those boxes that don't exist in nature and
Mm,
moving away from thinking in a linear way,
right.
and moving away from plutonic solids so we can create like new technology and like and it's a good time to be alive, man. Moving from the age of Pisces to Aquarius, it happens like
Mm,
once every 2,000 years, and we're alive during that shift, that change, and you are bringing a baby into the world during that shift and that
right.
change.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, it's like
Dude,
I don't know if everyone out there is feeling it, but like yeah, it feels like
yeah.
something very
Oh, I could.
fundamental
Hey,
is
man,
shifting.
I know that you're around big cities too, but I'm in Los Angeles, and this is the ultimate contrast here. This
Mm.
hyper wealth. It's kind of like the pocket of illusions, right? Because the intent of film and television is to manufacture deceit, at least the acting side of it. They're trying to make you believe that they're doing something that they're not actually doing. And then you have the billboards and you have, just everybody is walking around trying to become famous. And you have these beautiful mansions. And then down the block from me, people are shooting up on the street and there's homeless encampments. And there are people walking around that are way too young to be walking around like at 4 o'clock in the morning when I leave to go on a hike, just zoning out. And it's just all of it is happening at once. So, in the midst of this ultimate contrast, right, there are smiling people in the middle of this chaos. I'll just anecdotal, but I'll give you one quick example. It's 4:30 in the morning. I stop at a 7-Eleven to get a cup of coffee, and there's like three gangsters outside. And there is a guy that is homeless and he's sitting on the ground. And the guy asks for some change. One of the dudes walks out the door and throws hot coffee in his face and kicks them,
Oh,
kicks the homeless guy. And it is a horrific thing to see.
right.
And when I lived in New York and Chicago, I would see stuff like this all the time. And it
Oof.
would keep me depressed and it would keep me in a funk. But what proceeded to follow throughout the rest of the day was a series of beautiful moments with people from all walks of life throughout the entire day, all these beautiful synchronicities. It was just this place is a very firm lesson in accepting that contrast that we're talking about
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for now, until systems change, until those new generations really down the line make drastic moves, to really revamp things. But
Do you think we kind of have to have both? So like the yin and the yang, it's like half light, half dark. Do you think that the good and evil dynamic kind of always has to exist in this
yes,
universe?
absolutely. I think I've done a lot of work on this recently. I'll say that your shadow is with you all the time. That anger, that rage, it serves a purpose. Everything that you experience, everything that you feel serves a purpose. And instead of feeling judgment or guilt or shame because you flip a driver off, how do we know what that action caused? It did something for you. Maybe it caused guilt or shame because you got angered and you're trying to walk this perfect spiritual path, like
Mm.
perfect footsteps. Nah, the human experience is messy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's another thing on my own self improvement journey, I'll call it, is a lot of this guilt and shame for past actions has come up and like tormented me in a lot of different ways. And I'll feel it. It's like this tightening in my chest. I'll have this memory of something that happened
Mm-hmm.
years back, and I'm just so ashamed of
Yeah.
myself for what I did. And it's like all consuming. But I think maybe you're suggesting is you need to take a little bit of grace with yourself, and it's like, okay, these actions, they happened. It doesn't mean that they define you still. It doesn't mean that you need to
Mm-hmm.
continue to be weighed down by them, but you can question or look in and kind of have a perspective on them. Maybe there's a explanation that's bigger than you as to that
Yes.
other person maybe needed to have that reaction from you
That
to learn a lesson on
experience.
their side. Or yeah.
So then, did you just get upset at yourself for helping someone else on their journey and giving them a gift? The middle finger could have been a gift, and you're going to beat yourself up for it.
Right. Right. I mean, I think it's a little bit of a
So,
slippery slope, though, of like just justifying like any behavior. It's like, oh,
oh,
I can
no,
do
no,
horrible
I'm
things, but
talking about if you were present and you were
yeah.
sit with that. It is the same. I think we're talking about the same thing in sacred sex. I think we're
Mm,
talking about the energy behind those lower negative. I don't know too much about this, but maybe we are doing a disservice by calling lower negative vibrations. Because if everything teaches us a lesson, if all is a lesson in my perspective,
hmm
then anger and guilt and shame are important. And I do believe that, yeah, the yin and yang has to exist. I have
hmm
learned a lot from my shadows, and some of the lessons I've learned from my shadows have been just as beautiful as the ones I learned from the light. You know,
Yeah, and they give you the ability to appreciate the difference. And I think that's one thing that I tend to get caught up in is like trying to only exist on like the peace and happiness and joy spectrum. It's like,
yeah,
okay, I try to focus all my time and stay there, but That's
I
not
tell this to
possible.
somebody, like when people tell me, "Oh, I'm like I'm all peace, love, joy. I'm in the 5D all the time." I'm like, well, "Why are you on Earth? What are you doing here?" I mean,
Hmm.
like we're here to learn. It's supposed to be messy, you know. I'm not endorsing like substance abuse, but sometimes, maybe you're supposed to get drunk with somebody. Sometimes I don't know whatever it is for you. There's just we were talking about it earlier, the rigidity. I think you are right. I think it is fading away. I see it. I see it
Hmm.
too, and not just the younger generations, but the older generations are identifying with the younger ones, saying, "Hey, this shit ain't working for me anymore." Like
Right.
yeah, what
Yeah, I
they're
feel like it's
saying
like
makes sense.
it's like a collective, waking up of the soul on the earth, just being like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like, whoa, yeah, we are all here right now, and we have agency, we have sovereignty, we're able to make our decisions. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have to carry on the traditions or the
Yeah.
strict rules of the people before us. Like we can change things.
I'll say that if we do create differences between generations, that is creating separation, and that is a movement away from love, and that's not a movement towards unity. So, if
Hmm.
we keep going in that direction, then we will not persist. Things will
Right.
just get more catastrophic. I'm ready for things to get better.
Right. Yeah. And I think they are, right? You got to have the
Yeah.
optimistic outlook. I think that's one
Oh
thing
yeah,
that,
yeah. No, I
and,
am. I am optimistic. I see nothing but good things coming, but I also understand why the struggle is necessary.
right. And there, yeah, there's going to be those days filled with pain and sorrow and
Mhm.
sadness and grief, and those are part of the human experience, part of the
Yeah.
deal of coming and having a life here on Earth. And
Sit with
um,
those and love those just as much as the day that your child was born, right?
right, right,
I know it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that because that is and I've never had that experience. So maybe I'm being a little flippant in saying it, but I mean, every single moment on earth is important. Some are more important than others, obviously, a childbirth, but
yeah. If you're living, living in the present and really being appreciative of every moment that we have here, and giving the sacredness to every moment, every breath that you have. Like I'm still breathing, I'm still alive, I'm still
yeah,
expressing life, expressing the life force through me. So that
yes,
deserves as much respect as any other time that you're able to do that as well. Like each moment is a gift.
yeah, the sacredness and the ugly, perceived to be ugly moments are just like, yeah, they're gifts. Everything's a
Yeah, you
gift, man. Like if
yeah, you
people
learn
just
the most
realize
about
that,
yourself.
if people just realize that, it'd be so much easier.
Yeah. So wanted to bring
Perfect.
things winding it down a little bit, but give you the
It
opportunity
does.
to
It does feel time to wind down,
yeah, okay,
just without
perfect.
knowing the time, just intuitive.
Perfect. I'm glad you feel the same way. But yeah, I wanted to give you the opportunity to leave any final comments with the audience today.
Just be cool with each other, love each other. We talked about a lot of different topics today, but I think the central theme is always, and this cuts across the other two podcasts, is just come back to yourself. If you have any questions, if you have any fear, anxiety, just sit with all of it, and make time for it. And then, if you are in a relationship and you are struggling and something feels off, then listen to that. Protect yourself. Don't just be with somebody just because you're lonely or you're depressed or that person's going to complete you or they're going to love you. No, like everything we talked about, starting like with sacred sex and then on to childbirth, that we didn't talk about it in that order. All of it is such a beautiful and sacred journey for two souls that come together. Just explore that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm
Yeah.
so happy for you for everything, for the new
Thank
job,
you. Thank you.
for the new baby, for the new flow, the new balance, the new glow. Um, so I love you, man.
I appreciate it. I love you too, Michael. Yeah, thank you again for coming on the show. Looking forward to your fourth appearance sometime soon, coming back to the podcast. So thanks again.
Take care. Bye.
Take care, everybody.